So in the season of Christmas, we return every year to the stories surrounding the birth of Jesus. But for the most part, the Gospels skip over the next 30 years of his life, aside from two very short scenes. This morning's story of 12-year-old Jesus in the temple and next week's story of the Epiphany. There's a legend about Jesus that says that as a child, he shaped a dozen sparrows out of clay. When he was told this activity wasn't appropriate for the Sabbath, instead of putting the clay back where he'd found it, he breathed life on the clay sparrows, giving them breath, and they flew away. And then there was no evidence that he'd broken the rules about Sabbath rest. It's one of my favorite legends, even if it didn't make it into the Bible that we know today. Anyway, it's hard to imagine Jesus, literally God, the creator of all things, as a child. He held all the knowledge of the universe, but as an infant, his larynx wouldn't have been capable of speech. He was all-powerful, but as an infant, his stomach wouldn't have been capable of digesting solid food. He came to offer grace and salvation to the entire earth, but as an infant, he wouldn't have been able to sleep through the night. I'll be the first to admit that I don't really understand how babies work, and I got those facts from the internet, but I really don't understand how baby Jesus Christ worked. Then again, Jesus has always been hard to understand, from his birth to his ministry to 2,000 years later. He doesn't do what he might be expected to do, but chooses his own paths instead. I can't imagine that it was always easy for his mother or anyone else who loved him to watch him choose those paths. But faith isn't always easy, and the mind of God isn't always simple to understand. It can be immensely frustrating. Speaking of God being frustrating, our gospel reading this morning comes to us from Luke chapter 2, verses 41 through 52. Hear now the word of the Lord. Now every year his parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up as usual for the festival. When the festival was ended and they started to return, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but his parents did not know it. Assuming that he was in the group of travelers, they went a day's journey. Then they started to look for him among their relatives and friends. When they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem to search for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished, and his mother said to him, "Child, why have you treated us like this? Look, your father and I have been searching for you in great anxiety." He said to them, "Why were you searching for me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?" But they did not understand what he said to them. Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. His mother treasured all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and in years, and in divine and human favor. This is the word of the Lord. So I don't want to make assumptions about you all, but I suspect that you haven't always done exactly what your families might have wanted you to do. And I suspect that your lives haven't turned out to be exactly like what you might have imagined them to be. Maybe I'm projecting, but I'm pretty sure it's a universal truth. Our worship series for Advent, Christmas, and Epiphany this year has been framed around the image of being close to home. In the first week, we framed Advent as a feeling of homesickness, a longing for the world God meant for us to have. In the second week, we reflected on the foundations of our faith and the blessings that keep us strong. In the third week, we dreamed of a home for all, because this is God's house, and everyone is welcome here, no exceptions. In the fourth week, we looked at a broader sense of home, a safe place, a refuge, a sanctuary from the world. On Christmas Eve, we rejoiced that we are always invited home, always welcomed back into God's embrace, no matter what. On this first Sunday after Christmas, we might think about the idea of a chosen home. What does home mean to you? I imagine that the first thing you think about when you hear the word home has changed over time. Maybe you've moved a lot. Maybe you felt more at home in the house of a friend. Maybe you miss a family home that has been sold or lost. Maybe home isn't always a positive thing for you. Or maybe home is a person, perhaps a life partner or a family member or a best friend or even a pet. Maybe a space becomes a home when you hang a treasured painting or place an heirloom on a shelf. Maybe there's more than one place where you feel at home. Maybe home is a feeling, the sound of laughter, the smell of cookies baking, the satisfaction of having shelves of books arranged the way you want them to be, a ratty old sweatshirt that you'd never wear in public, but that is the most comfortable piece of clothing you own. Home is somewhere you come back to. Home is a place where you can be at rest. Home is somewhere you feel comfortable. Home is a place where you are safe. God chose to put on flesh and live among us, and so a baby named Jesus was born and wrapped in swaddling cloths and laid in a manger. The earth was the home that Jesus chose to share with us. Still, I wonder if there was another home that Jesus missed. I wonder if that sense of homesickness was what prompted him to stay in the temple after his parents and everyone who had traveled with them had left. As a child, I wanted to live in a church. I literally did for a summer when I interned at my church in Washington, D.C. I'd walk up the stairs to the sanctuary late at night and write prayers barefoot, sitting cross-legged on the chancel steps. I knew where everything was. I had the keys to the bell tower to watch fireworks on the 4th of July. I knew the quirks of the massive refrigerator in the kitchen off of Fellowship Hall. Sunday mornings felt like everyone coming to my living room to talk and sing and share stories. Walking back from the metro in the heavy, sticky heat of the summer, I'd spot the church spires towering over all the other buildings in the neighborhood, and I would think, I'm almost there. I'm almost home. It's been almost a decade since that summer, and that church is still what I think of when I think of home. But it was never about the physical building, beautiful as it is. It was about the people who welcomed me from the first morning I walked through those doors. It was about my late pastor's heartfelt invitations to me, a total stranger, to join them for Bible study the next night and a potluck the following week. It was about the grace that the congregation offered for my truly awkward prayers and first attempts to lead worship. It was about the hug that my DC bestie gave me when I burst into tears on the balcony the last time I visited before I was ordained and moved here. "You'll come back," she said. And so I love the image of prepubescent Jesus feeling at home in the temple, sitting among the teachers and asking them questions and offering answers of his own, not being shooed away, not being talked down to, not being tolerated, but being so welcomed that he stayed for days. He wasn't a pedigreed scholar. He wasn't an experienced rabbi. He wasn't from a rich and powerful family. He was the literal Son of God, but what the teachers in the temple would have seen would have been a child, a brilliant and precocious child, but a child nonetheless, his voice cracking as he was included in their conversations as an equal. I asked you what home means to you, but I have another question too. How can we share that sense of comfort and belonging and welcome others to consider this house of God to be their chosen home?